Hey guys, Kathy Iconis here, ready to get started with our Excel skills for accountants training today. Today, we are going to be talking about the top 10 Excel tools to increase your productivity. So, let me tell you, I have gone through a ton of Excel training classes before, and it feels like everything is kind of just talking about all the different functions in Excel, but not necessarily how you can utilize that in the accountant's day to day life, right? So, what I want to do is give you that kind of training today. So, everything we're going through today is what I use almost daily in my practice. The stuff I've been using for ages, and I feel like they are huge time savers, make me far more efficient within Excel so that I can get the work done that I need to for my clients. So let's talk about the types of tools that we'll be going through. I've grouped them together kind of in the types, the things that into different buckets, right? So we have some layout tips for you. Then formulas, time savers, and pivot tables. Yes, we are covering pivot tables. Aren't you excited? So let me tell you a little bit about myself. Hi, Kathy Iconis. I am a CPA. I have had um, my own bookkeeping practice for over 10 years now. I am exclusively on QuickBooks Online. I am the QBO guru, expert, QBO chat founder. If you haven't heard of QBO Chat, we are a website. Started out as a weekly Twitter chat that we still do every Thursday, 3 p.m. Eastern, different topics every week that we're talking about things. Also have a free Facebook group called Build Your Best QBO Practice for bookkeepers and accountants that want to build a practice providing bookkeeping services to clients all around QuickBooks Online. That is the purpose of the group. And it's not a group that tells you this is how you do it. I want you to find the way that works for you. Okay, that's why it is build your best QBO practice, not anyone else's, what fits you, your personality, your desires, your goals, right? Then I also am now doing these trainings. For the past year, I have embraced this passion I have for training QuickBooks Online, training different ways to run a bookkeeping practice operationally, all the different things we can do. So I have a ton of these courses out here. I have these 1 hour on demand courses, I have webinars, I have master courses, which are month-long courses, ton of different options. Just go to qbochat.com if you want to learn more. Now, when it comes to Excel, I was actually called the Excel queen at one point in my career. Um, so people have always relied on me to use Excel to help them make their lives easier in whatever aspect of either working for a public accounting firm, internally in a global construction company, or now in my practice. Okay, so I've been using Excel this whole time, my whole career, love it. And I'm going to show you what I do. So these are the things that I use almost daily. These are the 10 things, okay, that we are going to talk about. So layout tips. Are we, freezing panes, using filters within Excel, using the format painter, which is super cool, love it. Time savers, dragging down data to copy formulas really quickly. Paste special in there. How does that work and what can we do with it? Formulas, using the VLOOKUP, using if-then formulas, using text formulas, all of that stuff. I'm going to talk to you about how that is laid out, how to utilize it, and then pivot tables, talk about the basic setup of pivot tables. They're really not that scary. I know they might be, but we're going to go through that and show you around. And then also how to use pivot table formulas in there. There's two different ways to kind of utilize formulas around pivot tables, and I'll show you those. let me tell you that what I'm doing today is I'm going to utilize this spreadsheet that it's a data file. Okay, I have a whole bunch of data in here. I have commission information for a fake financial advisor. um, so we see all these clients in here. This is all commissions from January, and we have, it just scrolls down forever. Let's see, we got over 500 lines of data in here, right? I am going to be utilizing this to show you all of the features in here. I also have a sample balance sheet that I have pulled from the sample company of QBO. So we have that in there. And then I've also kind of given us a little VLOOKUP example reference right here, just so that we have that and we can utilize that in the VLOOKUP example later on. So this is our data file. You are going to get this data file so you can play around with it. But what I'm also going to do is I'm also going to save as right now, right? And say completed file. So I'm going to give you the file that I utilize throughout this whole thing and the completed thing once I'm done. So you can see you'll have the beginning file and the end file. Cool? Awesome. Yay. So are you super excited? One thing you'll notice, I'm using Mac. Really, there is hardly any difference between Mac and Windows. I was going to show you, do all of this in Excel Online, the 365 online, but I realized there's some limitations in the browser version. And they kind of limited some of the things that I wanted to show you. I will point out when those things come up so that you know. But that's where the limitation comes in, is when you're doing online. Now, I have a Office 365 month-to-month subscription. So with that, I'm able to do Excel online, and I'm able to download the programs onto my computer. So I have Excel, PowerPoint, Word, all of that I'm just paying a monthly subscription for. Now, let's kick it into gear. First, let's talk about freeze panes. You might have seen this before, but this is huge for me on saving time, because when I have a whole bunch of data, right, whole bunch of stuff going on, I usually have those headers up top and all this sort of stuff that I want to reference and I want to keep track of when I'm scrolling through all this data. So this is where I use freeze panes. In here, you can freeze your top row automatically, right? But what happens when it is like, I don't want to freeze the top row because this table is a little different than, a traditional table where you have all your headers going across, right? So I'm going to unfreeze that. The way to do this is that if you put your cell right where at the intersection of where you want your panes to be frozen. So I want all of A to be frozen, and I want rows 1, 2, and 3 to be frozen. So I'm putting my, I'm selecting the cell B4 right here. Okay. When I freeze panes, it is going to freeze all the client names. Scroll back, and it's going to freeze all of the headers for me. So when I'm scrolling down, it makes life easier for me. Is that exciting? Right? Simple, very simple, but huge for me. Next, let's look at filters. Filters are utilized as a great resource when you're researching data. So I have this big data file. Maybe I want to be able to drill down and get information pretty quickly out of here. So instead of doing a search and looking for things, I can put in filters. So we go to home and sort filter. Now I did this on purpose. It does the first row up here. I don't want the first row. Remember, my headers are on row 3. And Excel hasn't quite figured that out yet. So yeah, what do I do, right? So I can come back over here and I can turn off the filters. What you do, if you have a specific area that you want the filters on, you're going to select all of those cells. Coming all the way down. Seriously, 557 lines. And then I'm going to do filter right there, right? So now I have the option to filter everything in this data set. Really cool, right? Now, what I can say, a little bonus for you, right? If I undo this and click here and go to insert, you can insert your table. Again, it doesn't realize my header, really need to start at A3, the third row, not the first row. Tell it that I do have headers, right? And it creates a table for me, right? Which automatically has the filters in here, and it has this nice formatting, all of that sort of stuff. So you can utilize this. You can change the format, all that. That's my little bonus tip for you. But I'm going to get out of that and I'm going to go back to the actual filter that I had before. Let's go and redo that. All the way down to 557 rows down. Okay, so we got to turn off the filter. Oh, and I broke Excel. This happens sometimes. That would be the difference between Excel for Mac and Excel for Windows, I believe. I get a lot more like errors breaking it. So we have these filters back, thank God, right? We have the filters. The great thing about these filters is we have a ton of different options. I can sort information, ascending, descending, right? In here. I can select specific parts of things. So maybe I just want to do a dash, right? So that gives me anything with Ant-Man in it. Let me get rid of that. And let's see. We got, if I start doing Jones, right? I can type in Jones. I have Indiana Jones and Bridget Jones in here. So that's what I mean. We can filter down to the names, that sort of stuff. Let me clear that filter and let's go over to amount. I have the option to say it is greater than, let's see, $100. That filters everything down to show me any of the transactions that are over $100. I can add in things of let's filter and just show, come on, let me click on you, or not. Sometimes I'm telling you, Windows or Mac. Okay, so we have this. Let me just do mutual funds, right? So now I have just mutual funds and transactions over $100. You can see right here that I have these filters on in these areas. If I want to turn off filters, I can just do this clear filter, right? But I still have this filter on over here. I want to clear that sucker. Cool beans. The other thing I want to show you is on dates. Because it's a date column and it recognizes that date field, you can come in here and just select specific dates. I could do the year, I can unselect and just do January transactions, I can just do February transactions. Again, a lot of cool stuff in here on how I want to do things, right? All that filtering is fun. So I'm going to take this back up here to the date, and we got that in here. What do I want to do? Okay, I just want to make sure that this is all set up for me going forward for you guys. So we have this in here, right? I want to actually sort that ascending, and then we're going to sort that ascending. Okay. So you see what I did? That is sorted, but then I sorted this on top of it. So this takes preference, but it's still sorted a little bit based off of the transaction number over here. So here I can actually sort by transaction amount first, and then add on top of that, do it by date. So then it is getting the amount all for January 2nd listed in here like that. Cool. Okay. So those are filters for you. Next, let's look at the format painter. The best example of why I love the format painter is when we are looking at like financial statements and want to add things in here. So maybe I want to add in a whole new column, right? So I have a dollar change. Maybe I want a percent change listed in here, right? So I would do, let's see, equals that minus that divided by that, right? So then let me put my parentheses in here to make sure that actually works right. And I have percent, right? So, okay, I want to carry this down on here. Well, and I got all these like div things, but here, like I have this bolding, I want to do this, like what am I going to do, right? So, an easy way to just fix this is to select the column right here, click format, this little paintbrush, format paintbrush, and click here. It brings over all the lines, all the bolds, all of that stuff, right? The only problem we have is now this is a dollar amount versus what I had is a percent before. I could just change that to percent. Now I have a nice little pretty thing. I can delete these suckers. And ta-da. Okay. I've added in a whole new column just by doing that format painter so that it has all of my lines and every pretty formatting in all those different places. That's um, one of those fun, cool things, right? Here's another way to do things. So let's say I go to this column, right? And I want to change the way this looks. So I can do things like go into my number formats. There we go. Currency, do this. Let's do a dollar amount, dollar sign on there and press OK. Great. Now I have dollar signs and it looks a little different, right, than over here. Let's do another thing. Let's go in and do some conditional formatting. So if it is, let's see, greater than 0, I want to change the cell to look like this, okay? And it does that for me, right? I have all of these cells set up. They're like that. Let me scroll down. I have this negative and it's red, but it's not green, right? Now, I can apply this to these other columns, right? So I can just click this and apply it. Now I have to unmerge some cells first. So let's unmerge. Okay. Format there. Now I've applied it, right? Now you can also do that applying just on one cell, right? So I could do format that. It applies it to one cell. I could take this format and apply it to a whole bunch of cells if I want to. It got rid of the line, it did all of its stuff, right? So different fun things you can do with that format painter. Again, I utilize that a lot because if I'm adding in things to a spreadsheet, I just want to make it look consistent and pretty as to how that the financials looked before. Okay. The next thing, dragging down data in here. So let's look at this. I have, what do I want to do? I want to add in a column right here. Okay. And I'm going to say annual. Oh no, actually, I'm going to call this my if then thing. Okay. So I'm kind of jumping forward. You'll see a little if then formula. So I say if, what do I want to do? If this cell equals commission payment, right? Which is down here. You can't see me pointing. Then I want to do that transaction times 12. Otherwise, I am just going to do that right here. Okay, so I have that formula that's applying right there, right? What if I want to just copy that formula down all the way? If I am on here and click this, get the little black cross, black plus sign, if I double click right there, it drags my formula all the way down, right? But hey, let's test it. We have commission. It's not doing that times 12, right? So I did this on purpose. When we're using an if then statement and we're saying something has to equal like this commission payment, we have to be very literal with the information we have in here. So if I click on all of this, there are these lagging space signs or spaces in this cell. So I actually want to copy all of that, come back up to my original formula and paste it in here. So I have all of those cells, right? All those little spaces. And then I'm going to come back and I'm going to drag the information down again. So now when I look at this number, it is taking 0.9 times 12 because it sees this as a commission payment. Pretty cool, right? Okay. So the other thing we can do here, I can come in and insert and say count. Like I want to know how many transactions there are in here. So I can say 1, 2, 3. Crap. It's keeping my format, the date format. So guys, I can take this format, right? Copy it and just do it over here. And then double click, I pull my cell column in. So 1, 2, 3, right? And I want to do this all the way down. Double click it, it pulls it all the way down. Now, maybe I didn't want to do that. I wanted to just do 1, 2, 3 over and over again. If you click this autofill options right here, you could just change it to copy cells and it would do 1, 2, 3 over and over and over again. But if I come back, we have our fill all the way down. Now, great, simple, fun, I guess, right? What if I do change it up a little bit and I do 1 ABC, 2 ABC, 3 ABC right there. I get on that, double click, right? It tries to find the pattern and it pulls it all the way down for us. So instead of me having to drag, I just double click and it fills in all the way down. And it remembers that, I have this ABC after it, but it sees that pattern of the numbers in here. So that's another thing. Now, let's talk about Paste Special. And dude, do I use this one a ton, a ton, a ton. Now, I have some notes on here, down here, to make sure that I'm covering all the different like little examples that I set up. Okay, so first, let's go over here, right? I'm going to I just want to like find some stuff in the middle that has like a whole bunch of weird stuff together. Let's see. Okay, so I'm going to click all of this, right? So I'm going to copy this information, right? I'm actually going to create a whole new sheet. Make sure I have this still copied. Okay, create a whole new sheet, right? And I'm going to right click, paste special. This is the part that's not on Excel Online. Because I have a little like pop-up box, it doesn't work well in a browser, so it doesn't have that. You have some paste special functions in there, but you don't have all of this. So I wanted to make sure I showed you everything that you can do. Transpose is a little tricky thing that I saw once and I absolutely love. So I copy that information, right? And it was information like this going that way, right? When I transpose, it is going to take everything that was going down vertical and make it horizontal. Like this. Is that not crazy right there? It took all of that information over, right? And pasted it in here in the other way. Pretty cool. I absolutely love it. So we have this information, we have the date, we have this, I have the dollar amount. I even have the formula coming in, so that is doing from here up like that, right? The other thing you can do, say I want to select these and I actually want to copy, I want to make a link to that sheet, right? So I can do a paste special and I can do transpose. Oh, I forgot. Transpose does not work that way. So my example kind of sucked on that one, guys. If only. Let me take these and I will show you a better example. This is why I have notes. I'm going to transpose. Now I have those all the way down. Obviously, I did not get that other commission type. I'm going to put that over here. Okay, so I have my little headers right there. So let's talk about what I was just about to show you. We can actually paste a link. So I have this transaction amount, right? And I have a transaction date. So let's see, I can take my transaction date right here. I can copy and just paste it down. So I did a Control Z, Control V to put it down, right? Say that I am wanting to put in information for next year. Okay, so the transaction date is going to be a whole year in advance, right? So that's 365 days later. I can copy that number, come over here, select all of my things, guys, over here, go to paste special, right? Now, I just want to take the value. I don't want to take the look and feel of the 365. I want to keep these as dates, but I can add to those dates, right? So I'm adding 365 days. So that has now added that to my all these dates. It got updated, right? Now I can do the same thing, let's see, with the transaction amount right here. Say I want to add 20% to this, right? So it's 1.20 right here. Okay, so I'm going to copy and then I am going to paste special, right? Gonna keep just going to copy the value, not the format or anything, and I am going to multiply. So that has multiplied this by 1.2, so it's 20% increase on that transaction amount for next year. But what if I wanted to have, excuse me, the as I move around in my seat, what if I want to like remember how I got to that increase, right? That's in my world, this is hard keying the answer versus I want the formula. I want to see how we got there. Okay. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this transaction amount right here, and I am going to paste special, right? And I'm going to, this is what I was talking about before, paste the link. So now it's the link to the actual cell that I was copying, right? Because this is now a formula to it, I can copy this 1.2. I can now right click, paste special, just do those values again and multiply. And now I actually have a formula of saying I am taking this number times 1.2. Pretty cool, right? So now I know what I'm doing, know how that got updated in here versus it just being hard keyed. Okay, so that is paste special. Again, there are a ton, I just have to copy something to be able to show paste special. There are a ton of different options in here. Transpose is what I showed you, paste link. You can just do formulas and number formats. You can just copy the formats, just copy the comments on things. There's several different variations you can do in here. But this I do a lot in here. Okay, saving it to make sure you guys are getting all of this. Now let's look at VLOOKUPs. We've already seen a little bit of formulas, right? So now I'm going into the VLOOKUP stuff, fun things. Okay, let's get back over to Excel. So in my example here, and how this is actually a real world thing, I use data files like this all the time to import into QuickBooks. Okay, so I need to have specific information to be able to import it. I need to have the account number or account code or description, what account name, whatever I need to get in to the system to be able to import it, right? So in this instance, I am going to, I'm trying to remember, okay. I am going to put in here the account number. And what happens is, based on the activity description, that determines what account in the chart of accounts this was going to go to. Okay, so anytime I see internal fees, I want to put in this, right? So this is where I use a VLOOKUP. I have this reference that I set up, right? Let me make it a little bit bigger. So we have the activity description over here, right? And then every time I see commission payment, this is going to go to commission revenue. Every time I see internal fees, it's advisor expenses, advisor fee, consulting revenue, trail payment, commission revenue. So these are actually the same, right? Other income, other revenue. I don't want to go through 500 lines to match these up and to make them right. So what I'm going to do is utilize a VLOOKUP. The way a VLOOKUP works is basically I am going to utilize a data table. So whenever I find something in the first row of that data table, pull back information, that line, whatever column I ask it to go to. So you can actually go out a ton of different columns, but in this instance, we have our first column, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so you'll see what I'm doing in a second. So I'm going to do equals VLOOKUP, right? Open parentheses. Great thing about Excel, if I click on this, it gives me a formula builder. It explains to me what I need to put in this information. Make sure I am picking all the right things, all of this sort of stuff. Each one of these is a different part of the formula, and within each part, you have to do a comma to get to the next area on there. So you have all of this. This is another thing when you're in Excel Online that you might not see. You see a little bit of it, but it doesn't give you like this much detail on there because again, it's like a little pop-up window. It just doesn't know how to handle it. So let me show you actually going through the formula. So equals VLOOKUP. The first thing it's asking for is the lookup value. So I'm going to tell it D4, right? Then I'm going to do a comma. Now I want the table that I'm going for. So I'm going to go to my table and select. Say this is my whole table, right? Now I want to do a comma again. And now I want the column index number. So which one do I want to pull back? I don't want to pull in information from column 9. I want to pull in column 2. So I'm going to write 2 in there. The next is an interesting one. I always use false. Remember that. False, false, false. The reason why is because true is saying, hey, do you want me to look for an approximate match? Something that's kind of close, maybe, whatever, and I'll pull back a number for you, right? I don't know about you, but I'm an accountant. I want exact. So I want you to find the exact name. So whenever you see that, you'll pull back the right cell and the information in that cell. So I'm writing in false. Okay. So now I have advisor expenses because it saw its internal fees. Now it's going to be coded to advisor expenses. I'm going to take my little crosshairs, double click, and it pulls it all the way down for me. So I didn't have to go one by one, try to like come up with it, all that. Yeah, whatever. I got it. It's all in here, right? So I got my account number in here. That's how the VLOOKUP works. Now, the next thing we can do in here is, let me go down, is let me show you how we can nest formulas together. So right here we have the if then, we're going back to that if then that I created. If cell D4 equals commission payment with all those extra spaces, right? Then take that transaction amount times 12. If not, just put in that transaction amount, right? But what if I want to make it different for every time I see individual life on here? So commission payment and individual life together. So what I can do is right here, you'll see it says value if true. So first, I want commission payment. I want the cell to say commission payment or be right next to it, right? Commission payment, that's true, right? Now I want to add another one. So I can say if I'm adding a whole nother one, product line over here equals individual life, right? Comma, let me come back. One thing I need to do, which I forgot about already, is put in that extra parentheses. Okay, so if I'm in my logical test area, look for the comma. Now that's what happens if it's true, right? So if it says commission payment and individual life, I want to multiply that by 12. If it does not, then I want to do 0. Okay, so if there's no individual life, it says commission payment and it doesn't say individual life, I want the amount to be 0. Close that out. I feel like I'm going to break this formula. Let's just do this. G4 times 8. Okay, so we have that. Now, one thing that always gets me are these parentheses. Realize that Excel gives you a color coding of your parentheses. So see right here, I have red, then black, then I have black, and this shows me the end is red. I want to actually finish that if then. So that's there. Now I have that amount. So we got that. It's just G4. So if it does not say commission payment at all, it's just giving me that transaction amount. Now, so I have this formula that copies everything down. Guess what? This individual life thing, it seems to work. That formula, it's working. But let's go back just to make sure. I don't want anything going on. Funky. Okay. Oh, see? Now we moved it. Okay. So now it really works. Got all those spaces taken care of in my formula. So there is a nested formula. I had an if then, and then I put an if then inside of it. Okay. You can do it on the false side. You could do it on the true side like I did. You could keep on doing this over and over and over again. But sometimes things just don't work out, right? What if I'm referencing this amount and I actually, in a couple of these, they just say NA, right? Or let's see, I did A, right? Which is not doing what I wanted to do. Let's do 0. Okay, and the example I did beforehand, guys, in my test, it worked. That's hilarious. Okay, wait, let me do A here. There we go. That's why. Okay, so it had to be under commission payment. And now I get this value error, right? Because it's still letters. That doesn't work. So sometimes when I have that and I have this like big long formula and this stupid thing comes off to the side and it screws me up, right? But I know I check the formula. I know it's right. It's just there's a situation where I have a letter here and I really want the formula to apply all the way down. How do I take care of this, right? So all I have to do is wrap this formula with if error. So if my calculation comes back with an error, right? So here's my whole calculation. If it's an error, I just want it to come back at 0. I don't want to deal. Okay, so let's just do that. So now this one, I don't have an error on anymore. It's coming back at 0. Yay, I took care of it. So there's my if error example. Now, let's look at some ifs. There's some if, count if, some ifs, count ifs, right? So let's look at this. I want to come back over to this spreadsheet, right? And I'm going to say commission payment. I want to know the total of commission payments. So I'm going to say equals sum if, right? Again, this formula gives me the explanation as to what I need to do. I need to find the range, right? In the range, looking at the next option is criteria. So the range of where I'm referencing, so it's D right here. I want to find anytime it says criteria, this commission payment. So I'm just going to select the cell because I can reference the cell that has the information I need in it. And then I am going to sum the if then column. Okay, do that. and I have the total amount in here. What if I want to have multiple criteria to get me that sum? So next, I want to find anything that says it's a commission payment and is also the first year. So I'm going to copy that down, right? Instead of nesting or anything, we use sum ifs. It changes the formula around. So you can have a ton of criteria. So we do a sum range this time. So what are we summing? We're summing the if then, right? Then what is my first criteria? I'm going to say column D needs to say that it is commission payment. Then column I needs to say that it is first year, right? So I have my criteria range 1 and my criteria range 2 and the criteria. And you can keep on doing that. It's all of these ifs that you can compound on top of each other. Then I do a in parentheses in there. So now I have my total commission payments that are in that data file, and then everything that is a commission payment and first year, the total amount. Okay. The other thing we can do is this also applies if you just want to count. Okay, so we can do count if, count how many commission payments I have. So I can come over here, click this. Every time it says commission payment, again, I'm going to reference that cell, close it. There's 283 commission payments in there. Cool. What if I want to do multiple criteria? Same thing, count ifs. You just put that as the S at the end, and you can have as many criteria as you want. So I am going to come back and say column D, right? That range needs to say commission payment. And then this other commission type needs to say first year. Close the parentheses, done. There's 95 of those. So those are the different kinds of formulas that I'm using every day just to make my life easier, just to add things up. What you would see in a lot of my files and my clients' things is that I will I'll export financials from QBO and then have a tab that says summary. And I'll reference a whole bunch of stuff on the other pages, maybe do a VLOOKUP, maybe do a sum if, all of this sort of stuff, so that I have kind of a dashboard on the front and all the detail on the supporting tabs within the spreadsheet. So that's how I go through things. Text formulas. Again, this is an example when I am importing information. Let me get over here. I actually have to have a reference number on that transaction when I import it. So what I like to do at times, oh, there's my transaction date. I was looking for it. So I need a transaction ID. So what I can do is say I want my transaction ID to be the date plus the contract number. I want to put both of those into one cell, okay? So I can say equals this, do an ampersand, and then click contract number, right? Now that brings over the date and the contract number. Unfortunately, it's changing the date to the numerical number of it that you see, like it sees behind the scenes. So I don't like that look. I want to make this a little different. So what I can actually do is change this area, say text. I want the text of this, and do a little comma, and do the quotes MMDD. That is the text format that I want, and close parentheses. So now that changes it to 0102, right? And then the contract number. But I'm not quite done yet. I want some sort of space or some sort of thing in between the two so it doesn't look just like that, pretty much. So I can do that @ sign as many times as I want, and I can actually add in more information, like just text if I want to. Here I'm going to do a colon. I just have to have the quotes around it, and I have to put in another ampersand right there. If I do that, now I have a 102, the colon, and then the contract number. And now that is my transaction ID. And I can pull that all the way down in here. Cool. So obviously some of these don't have contract numbers. That's fine. Actually, when I'm just importing, I don't use the internal fees. I just do commission payments or any of the other things. I don't have the expense side of anything. So I just import all of that, which does have a contract number on them. So it works that way. Okay. So that's how we can use formulas to kind of pull together text and make those nice little fun changes on things. Now, let's get into pivot tables. Yay! I know a lot of people are freaked out by pivot tables. I was honestly freaked out too. But it's just a matter of you need examples, real life examples as to using them. If you don't have them, real life examples, you're just not going to use it. So yeah, let's give you some real life examples on here. So I'm going to use this data file right here. If I come in and I do insert pivot table, I have a little bit of the same issue again. I want to just pull from row 3. I don't want A1 and A2 on there. I just want 3, right? And do OK. So now I'm on the pivot table screen and the ability to create one. And you're like, what do I do? Okay. Except it just pulled in client name. So let me come here and change my source. Did not want A3 through a whatever. I actually want to pull in through L. Okay. Now, don't freak out. I just have to click field list and this whole area, this is what you want. This area shows up. It goes away. It's just called field list. This is what we want right here. This is our resource on how to do everything. So what's fun about this is a way to just summarize your information, your data file, and just like slice and dice and do whatever you want with it. Basically, you could just take whatever like field you want, like client name. I'm going to put this down here and I'm going to make it all my rows going down, right? Then let's see, let's do activity description. I'm going to put this as my columns across the top. So I have advisor fee, commission payment, internal fees, other, right? Or I could even, I'll just throw that out and do a count. So now that's the actual amounts on my chart of accounts, right? So then I want to put in my transaction amount, my original transaction amount. It's giving me, by default, it's doing a count. All I have to do is click that little I right here. I can change this to sum of transaction amount, and I can even change the number format to be accounting, or here, let's just do numbers with like that. Okay, and do a sum. So now it's giving me this pivot table of all my clients listed out and then the totals of all of these. If I want, all I have to do is double click on this and it shows me the actual lines, creates a whole new sheet. It shows me the lines that made up that total on the pivot table itself. So I can like verify that the numbers are right on there. But there's so much more we can do with this. I can add in, let's see, I want to put in contract number, and I do that as a subset to client name, right? So then I have Ace Ventura. Those are all the contracts that I have under Ace Ventura, and it's summarized all the way across like that. If I click on here on the contract number area and do my drop down, this is where I can filter the contract number, okay? If I click on the name do a drop down, I filter off of the name. Okay, so if you want to filter anything, you can filter any of that. It's just a matter of selecting the right area to get what you want. Now, say I'm on this contract area again, and I want to just like shorten everything, I can do collapse field, and it makes it all go down. So while I still have it, I can open it up if I want to. I can close it back up, but instead of having to go through every single one, I can just do that there. Um, let's say I want to have a filter in place that's not even listed on here. Okay, so maybe I just want to put in transaction date up on top as a filter. And I just want to show some dates, right? I can select these dates. And you can see we're showing just those dates on here, and it's summarizing all of that for us. So as you can see, a lot of cool stuff going on in here. Again, I can click this. I can just look at other revenue, right? Or go back and select everyone. So, oops, again, I come back. If I'm not in the pivot table, that view goes away. Come back, click on it, and it comes back in here. I'm like, I need this right over here. I need my field list. We can do things. So let me get rid of account. Now it's just the sum of the transaction amount. I can pull the transaction amount again down here, and I can do account right next to it if I want to. I can even come in here and do the average. You have so many options of what you might want to do here. It's just really limitless of everything. So you can move these around. So say I move contract number above client. Now I have contract number and then client underneath. Now that doesn't make sense because the contract number applies once to the client. So I really did want it that way. So I can just move this back up or move this down, and it flips it around for me. So it's pretty cool how I could just like flip things around, change stuff, all of that, right? So what if you want to make some changes to the numbers? You want to do some sort of formulas in here. While we're in here, right, you can click here, fields, and do a calculated field, right? So maybe I want to, let's see, if then less transaction amount, right? So basically I'm just giving it that name so you know what I'm doing. I would select if then, right? And do minus sign and transaction amount, right? So now it's a whole new field and it's listed in there. So pretty cool how that is now a calculated field in there. If you have a ton of numbers, you can do that. You can add, subtract, all of that sort of stuff in there to make your own field and summarize it, everything. The other thing you can do with pivot tables is you can reference the actual summation of this. Let me go down one. Equals this right here. So it is the formula get pivot data. Okay, so get pivot data, get sum of the if then less transaction amount, right? On A3, where the client name equals Ace Ventura. Ta-da! And I'll pull it out for you right there. Okay. So I can really reference anything in here on that. And then if I do a filter, get rid of some stuff, it's not really changing anything on here, right? Let's select all. Now it changed some of these numbers. So made some updates to those numbers on there. So it referenced the actual pivot table and what is happening in the pivot table at the current time that is being seen. So you have that you can mess around with. The one thing I will say is if I were to come in here and now I do want to put back in the activity description up top, it moves everything to the right and it will get rid of any data I had. It doesn't move, so I have all those columns, right? It doesn't move those formulas over. It just overwrites it completely. So you want to be aware of that when you are moving stuff around and playing around with pivot tables in here. I can undo it and keeps that formula in there and brings it back to how it was. But if I just go back and I'll do redo here instead of my keyboard, redo, and just move away the activity description, my formulas are gone. Okay. So that's what I'm saying. It just overwrites it completely. So that's everything. That's the all my top 10 tools to be productive in Excel and to save you a ton of time, be efficient, all of that sort of stuff. Here's my slide for formulas. So thank you for your time today. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed or, are ready to start exploring these tools. Like I said, I'm going to give you the initial data file that I used and then this now completed one. So let me make sure I save it. It is saved and ready for you to play around with. Okay. But if you are interested in any other training in the future, please just go back to QBOchat.com. Over on the right, there's shop. You can see all the different things that are available. Of course, you can look in other areas for the on-demand training, webinars, all of that is going to be in direct links on the site. Just go on over there, hang out for a while. Definitely get on the newsletter list if you are not already, because I do put out discount codes from time to time. So you want to be aware of that too. So again, thank you for your time today. I really do appreciate it. And I hope that you start loving Excel as much as I do. Thank you guys. Have a great one. Okay.